The VO Meter, measuring your voiceover progress. Whether you're a veteran voice actor, just starting out, or don't even know how to set a level, we're here to help you avoid the pitfalls along your voiceover path to success. The VO Meter is brought to you by Global Voice Acting Academy, Fidalgo, JMC Demos, Studio Bricks, Voice Actor Websites, and Roswell Pro Audio. The VO Meter is produced in part using Source Connect made by source-elements.com. And now your hosts, Paul Stefano and Sean David.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 116 of the VO Meter.
Measuring your voiceover progress. Today we're featuring audiobook narrator Nikki Zakocs. And, of course, we'll have a funny 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon story to go with that. But we'll get to that right after our...
VoiceOver Extra brings you the VO Meter reference levels. Seriously, guys? That's the best you could come up with? Hey, it's your show.
So, Sean, what's happening in your VO world?
Taxes, for one thing.
Oh, God,
What's that?
So, oh, God, yeah, me too.
Oh, yep. So I procrastinated this year, and it's funny. It's like I kept my documents pretty well organized. I only had to spend like an afternoon calculating my profit and loss. But one thing that hung us up is that, as you guys know, I got married this year, and I assumed it would be best for us to file separately because, I mean, like, I get a lot of 1099s, and, like, I'm self-employed, all that stuff. And now we're not so sure. I mean, it's a little late to change things. We're still married, filing separately, but like...
I mean, this is a deduction just for being married, which helps.
But yeah, so that was my weekend, was doing my taxes, helping my wife with hers, making sure we filled things out correct. And then I've got a great tax person, Angela from H&R Block, who's helped me avoid audits for the last several years. So... I'm to the point where I'm just like, can we just add my wife to this service? That would be great.
There you go.
But I'm actually looking forward to a nice return, fingers crossed, because I was paying a whole bunch into my quarterly estimates. But one of my freelance contract clients, I became an employee under them. So I got a W-2 instead of a 1099 this year. So fingers crossed that I'll get a few grand back. What about you?
Well, on the taxes side, I spend this week every year getting yelled at by my wife because she's a CPA, and while I do my best to keep records, I'm scatterbrained at best. And every time this year, she's like, "What did you do here? How did this happen? What's going on?" So I get a lot of questions as if I was one of her clients, and we work through it. We work through it eventually, but. The one thing, you mentioned being a W-2 employee, that doesn't always guarantee that things are done right. I had a lot of W-2s this year for that same reason, because I had a lot of announcing clients that were paying me as part of being a regular employee. However, almost none of them asked me to fill out. There's another form, and I can't remember what it is, but usually when you go to HR with a company, you fill out a form to talk about the deductions you want. And in all these cases, almost all the cases of the clients I work with, I just sent them a W-9, which doesn't have that information about the deductions. So I think I was claiming zero in every case. So they withheld almost nothing from federal, and we're getting hammered in payments because we did not make any quarterly payments.
That's what I figured. I was like, they might list you as an employee, but they might not be deducting your taxes.
Yes, that's what's happening, apparently. So I'll have to remedy that with all of them this year. And quickly, because we're already a few months into 2025, or just make larger quarterly payments.
Luckily, I mean, it's as long as you're in good standing, it's easy peasy to get an extension if you need it. But
yeah.
And then we actually had a minor hiccup this weekend too, because like we weren't sure. Like, since I have a profit and loss, I got those confused with itemized deductions. And so when Rachel was like, "Oh, hey, do you do those?" "Yeah, totally." And then her owed went up to like $2,000. And so like, "Oh, okay, wait, maybe change that back." And then it went down. So yeah, so we were a little worried about that until like, no, that I did more research and found out those are very distinct things. And I was like, all right, we don't want it to affect your taxes. So just change that to no.
Yeah.
But other than that, more voiceover stuff. I've been doing a lot of pickups, a lot of auditions, some fun ones for my agents. Got some new character auditions. That was cool. I got to do a game trailer voiceover for one of my regular clients. That's
cool.
Always fun. And then I led a webinar with our dialect and speech coach, Pamela Vanderway, for GVAA. And it's called Working Your Warm-Up. And it was great. She was showing off some of the things that she's is able to do after implementing all of her techniques, and like her vocal range, the way she can change her resonance at a whim, like her tongue flexibility. It was nuts. She's like making 4-leaf clovers and stuff like that. It was just a reminder to up my game and how being more like having a more flexible body can be very, very useful in improving our range and preventing injury. So between her and some of the other sort of breath and body coordination or Alexander technique workouts we've been doing with some of our new coaches, I'm kind of getting back in touch with my body again. And it's really, I'm trying to approach things from much more relaxation than contraction. And I'm noticing I'm not as tired, I'm not as sore after like hours in the booth. And I just feel like I'm making a little less like inhibited decisions, if that makes sense, or at least acting choices.
Yeah, that's cool. We talked about that seminar or webinar was upcoming last episode. I'm glad that went well because I think it's a very important topic as well.
Mm-hmm. No, big fan of that. And we talked about the importance, especially if like we're expected to do exerting stuff for hours on end. And so thanks, Pamela, for being our guest. I had a lot of fun moderating that with you. And that's pretty much me on my end. What about you?
Yeah, from work-related stuff, mostly audiobooks right now. I've wrapped up initial recording on one book with Twin Flame Studios called Shoveling Shit, a love story of the entrepreneur's messy path to success. It's by a husband and wife duo, Michael and Cass Lazaro. Funny story here you'll like. They're in New York City. But I found out through the initial interview and then the recording that Michael is from the Baltimore area, less than like 5 miles from where I am right now. The first time we got on the phone together, he told me where he's from, and I said, oh, my son was playing a baseball game there yesterday. We drove right by his neighborhood. And then Cass is from Bethesda, which is outside D.C., but I spend a lot of time there as well, too, especially traveling through there when I'm going to Washington, D.C., but I also recorded an audiobook there in person with a client a couple of months ago. So, again, the 6 degrees of separation collides with my work, so that was pretty cool. And then I also am recording a new book, and you'll recognize this name. The book is called Next Level Leadership, How to Build and Leverage Your Essential Team Success Ecosystem, a New Era Framework for Greater Growth and Prosperity by Peter C. Atherton. And I did ask him, no relation to Liz Atherton, who founded and was running the Atherton group, the talent agency, and now runs Cast Voices. So no relation, but I did ask, and because that is not a very popular name. But that's another book I'm directing with the author doing his own narrating.
Very cool.
Then finally, I am narrating a book on my own called The Kingdom of the Heart, Meditations from the Christian East by Dr. Alexander Harb. It's another religious book. I'm not sure why I keep getting these, but I guess it's in my wheelhouse because this is the second book in a row in the last couple of months I've done on Christianity, and I'll keep taking them as long as they give them to me. This one is specific to the Eastern Fathers, which is like a sect of Christianity that first moved into what is now, I guess, the Gaza Strip and part of Israel, and sort of sequestered themselves to learn about Christianity in the years directly following the death of Jesus. So interesting stuff on my part as a practicing Christian, and that will be out fairly soon. And then on the AI front, as I mentioned last episode, I've bought into the ACX voice replica service. I now have 9 books out available for sale and a total of 49 sales between them, which is kind of surprising to me. One is the bulk of them. It's 25 purchases, and that is surprising because that's better than some books I've narrated myself. That
Some
are,
of your in-person
yes, that are 5 or 6 years old and still haven't garnered that many sales. So I don't really know what to make of it yet. It's still very much a work in progress. I don't think there's a lot of people doing it, and I think that's part of the reason I've been landing so
Who
many.
knows? Amazon might be making a marketing push algorithmically for some of those as well.
Yeah, it could be. They're definitely pushing it out to gain more narrators. They're sending out emails all the time to people, and most people are rejecting it. I bought in, and so far I'm taking advantage of it. But, and this won't last, especially if I keep talking about it on a podcast, but I'm landing like almost one every 2 days. And I think it's because there's not a lot of people taking advantage of it. So if you're on the fence
Interesting.
and you want to make some easy passive income, you might be able to jump on there right now.
It's very cool. And it's like, it's coming to a point where it's really hard to, like, be one way or the other. Like, you know, when it first came out, it was just like, oh, it's like never going to be good enough. And like a lot of people ignored it or even put their heads in the sand. But it's like now it's here. People are using it. I recently worked on a video game a few months ago, and I really enjoyed working with this team, but they came back to me last week and they're like, oh, we want you to play, we want to play a few characters, but we also want to use your voice as not as a voice template, but for a cadence template, right? Sort of like all of, like, not the vocal characteristics, but they wanted the performance captured, right? So, and then they planned on like adding whatever kind of vocal qualities they wanted to it after the fact, which is a different form of AI than what I've heard as well. So I'm just like, I said no in the moment, but I'm just like, how often before, or how long before this is just the norm? Like people, like there are certain clients that we might never be able to expect to pay like a full cast of actors, but because they just don't have the budget, but they might be able to populate a world with hundreds of people, like based on these agreements, if they're made fairly, right? So I don't know what the correct answer is. Like, I applaud you for kind of being on the forefront and being more open-minded about it, but I feel like I just need to find like a more beneficial opportunity before I jump in.
No, I hear you. I'm very much on the fence about it too. This particular case, because it's run by ACX/Amazon, I figure it's pretty safe. Who knows for sure? I mean, things could go haywire in the next couple of months to years, but right now the contract seems pretty okay in my mind because it's backed by the big conglomerate behind it. So hopefully that stays the case. And I have one more thing to talk about. My son and I did a job together. It's happened before.
Oh, cool.
But my youngest son did a e-learning piece for English as a second language in Italy. No, Italy? No, it's not Italy. It's Asia. The production company is in Italy, but I believe it's Vietnam where it's going to be played. And it was just some early learning stuff for elementary school kids. And that was really fun because my son hadn't had a directed session in a while, but it was funny to see how much he's matured. So the last time he did a directed session was probably 2 to 3 years ago. And now he's 13 and even more of a pro than I thought. So I put him in the booth, and the director, I was listening on the outside with a talkback mic, and the director said to him, first of all, are you by yourself? Is your dad around? And I chimed in, I'm here, don't worry. But he should be able to handle it on his own. And I just shut up, and he did everything on his own. He even knew the word macadamia nuts, which I wasn't sure he knew. That came up in one of the conversations, and I was going to jump in and say, hey, do you know this word, buddy? And I just let it go, and he nailed it. And I was like, oh, I guess he's growing up now. So that was a lot of fun. And I want to thank Lauren McCullough. I think you know Lauren too, right, Sean?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So usually helps with the audio.
Yeah. So there was a referral from Lauren. I really appreciate it. And it looks like it might be an ongoing gig. So I really appreciate it. And Lauren is up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is not too far from me. And we pass through there quite a bit to go to Hershey Park. So next time we're in town, I will bring you a bottle of wine or donuts or pizza, whatever you desire. I'll reach out on the way. So thanks again, Lauren.
Very cool. So that wraps up this episode's worth of VO-meter reference levels. We'll get to our interview with Nikki Zakocs in just a second after these messages.
In these modern times, every business needs a website. When you need a website for your voice acting business, there's only one place to go. Like the name says, voiceactorwebsites.com. Their experience in this niche webmaster market gives them the ability to quickly and easily get you from concept to live online in a much shorter time. When you contact voiceactorwebsites.com, their team of experts and designers really get to know you and what your needs are. They work with you to highlight what you do. Then they create an easily navigable website for your potential clients to get the big picture of who you are and how your voice is the one for them. Plus, VoiceActorWebsites.com has other great resources, like their practice script library and other resources to help your voiceover career flourish. Don't try it yourself. Go with the pros. VoiceActorWebsites.com, where your VO website shouldn't be a pain in the you-know-what.
Hey everyone, Studio Bricks designs and creates the highest performing portable sound isolation booths. Our professionally perfected acoustics enhances your performance and takes your recordings to their maximum quality from your home studio. Forget about managing noise conflicts with your neighbors and family. Pursue your passion for voiceover on your own time and on your own terms.
Walgreens, because it's flu season, and you live in a place with doorknobs and handrails and, people.
We tried booking a vacation rental on one of those other websites. They don't always tell you everything.
The stars take it to the red carpet.
We are back live from the red carpet. California leads the way for change in America, and so does Kamala Harris.
Rated M for mature. Claire Redfield.
And who exactly are you?
So, yeah, what hashtag should I use to describe a grown man in a tuxedo wrestling a goat?
And prior to 1933, many of them belonged to a variety of political parties that were now outlawed in Germany.
This is the story of how Q got curly. Quinn was crazy about curls. Curly fries, curly straws, curly-haired dogs.
Hey, Jay Michael here. Thanks for listening to the VO Meter podcast. It's one of my favorites. If you're looking for a great demo like the ones you just heard, check out jmcdemos.com for more information.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us for the interview portion of this episode of the VO Meter. Our guest today is Nikki Zakocs. Nikki lives in Boston, Massachusetts, where she records in her professional home studio. She's narrated over 80 books from many genres that include mystery, true crime, romance, and memoirs. She enjoys reading science fiction and literary fiction. Nikki was a 3-time SOVAS nominee in 2024 and SOVAS winner in 2023 in the nonfiction genre. She has a master's degree in education and literacy and spent many years reading to her students, perfecting her storytelling skills. Nikki is passionate about animal rescue and has fostered many animals over the years. She was a foster parent for newborns and is an advocate for children in the foster care system. She is a lover of true crime and a super fan of the TV show Survivor. When she's not a party of one in a small padded room, she enjoys travel, walking her 2 Pomeranians, and a good cup of coffee with a piece of cake. Please join us in welcoming Nikki Zakocs. How's it going, Nikki?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Now, as our listeners know, I always like to have a personal connection or whenever possible with our guests, and Nikki is no different. Nikki hails from my home state of Maryland, is a graduate of the University of Maryland, where I work sometimes, as the listeners know, and has family who is within my immediate neighborhood, including, I think, about 8 houses away with the same last name as her maiden name. So we like to have those personal connections. And actually, right outside my door is my rescued husky that I got a couple of months ago, just after Halloween. So much in common, and we're so happy to have you here on the show, Nikki. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So tell us, how did you get into voiceover and audiobooks specifically?
So it's kind of a weird story. I mean, growing up outside of Los Angeles, like in my teenage and young 20s, I was always into acting, theater, all that kind of stuff. And then later went to college and kind of put that away. Later in life, when I had my children were also interested in acting. And my son, he became an actor and was very successful. And I was his momager, as they call them. And so all of his castings and auditions came through me, obviously, because he was underage. And one day a casting came in for an audiobook. And it was just like this bell went off of like, oh my God, that's a job? Like people do this? They cast for that? And it was just like, oh my God, that is what I want and need to do. Being a lover of audiobooks for years, listening to them on cassette, CD, all that kind of stuff, and my acting experience, I was like, I've got to figure out how to do this. And so I just literally did my research, figured it out. Started coaching with Sean Pratt, was my first coach, and the rest is history, just moving forward from there.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, this next question resonated with me because in your bio, you mentioned honing your skills as a teacher. And this is definitely not the first time or the first person we've met who's come from that job. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I was a teacher as well, teaching ESL over in Japan for several years.
Didn't know that.
I'm curious, how did being a teacher help you make that leap into audiobook narration?
Yeah, so when I did teach, I taught both times in bilingual schools. And once a Spanish English school and once a French English school, and all in the elementary age. And even though I did have some language skills in those languages, I always taught the ESL learners as well. So my degree is in literacy and literature. So my main thing is, I taught children through literature, basically. So I did a lot of reading aloud, a lot of animated reading aloud for second language learners, really making the stories something that they understood and captivated them. So reading out loud was like something I've been doing for a very long time.
How do you think those skills translate, or how do they help people? Or do you think it's sometimes a hindrance? Can you be too animated? Like, I'm thinking of my mom, who was a first grade teacher for over 40 years. She could do probably children's books and probably nothing else. So is there a way it might be even a hindrance if you're too animated?
I think so, depending on what you're reading. I also did a lot of training and education for other educators, which I think really has helped me in my nonfiction part. Sean Pratt always says, pretend you're standing in front of an audience, doing a TED Talk. It's kind of one of the things he taught us, which I did. I didn't do a TED Talk, but I did stand in front of an audience of other educators many times to teach the things that I was teaching or the practices that I believed in. So I think it can be a hindrance you obviously don't want to read a serious piece of literature, like you're reading a children's story. So you just have to know your audience.
All three of us actually trained with Sean, by the way.
Oh, great choice. Yeah, definitely. When I was in Ireland student teaching, actually, I was working with middle school, high school students. And like you were mentioning, literacy was a problem. So we would spend the entire class, me reading out loud from S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders or Of Mice and Men and stuff like that. And of course I would make him which way do we go, George? Kind of thing like that. And I would add voices to it. And it really helped the engagement. And I feel like for kids, and unfortunately, even at that age, many of them didn't know what good reading sounded like. So I feel like it was positive modeling for them. And also, kind of, I don't know, it got them more engaged and it got them to use their imaginations a little bit more.
I agree, 100%.
So talking about how those skills translate to narration, what are some of the favorite genres you have to narrate? And are there different styles or performance considerations you make when working across different genres?
I do love nonfiction, and for many reasons. I think it's just a natural way when I speak that crosses over into nonfiction very easily. But subjects of nonfiction that I love is I love true crime. I'm a huge true crime fan, so I've done true crime, which also kind of goes over into the mystery and suspense in the fiction side, which I love. You read those differently, obviously, but I'm just like a true crime junkie. So those are the things that I love the most. I also love a good memoir. I love anything that tells someone's life, and especially a woman's life and a transformation in a woman's life. So those are probably my favorite. And then I'm always open to trying any kind of new genre because you just never know. Once you get into something and you read it, you may love it, something that you haven't. I have not done a lot of science fiction narration, although I do love that to read personally, and that is one of my goals, is to do some more of that.
That's wonderful. We often encourage people who are aspiring talent and stuff like that to have that open-mindedness, because very often they might only know one or two genres of voiceover, for example, or one or two genres of audiobooks. And so they might be constricting or restricting their potential opportunities just for I'll never do that. Right. So I really appreciate that open-mindedness you have to new genres and new forms of work.
Especially when it comes to acting, because most of us call ourselves voice actors, and there may be something you don't think you would be good at that other people do. Like, for instance, my first really successful series was an romance book, and I had no delusions that I would be successful in that because I didn't think I would, and it was just all self-confidence. But it actually took off, and to date has been my best-selling series. So try something new, and you may be surprised.
It's true.
So for our next question, would you mind pulling the acoustic curtain back a little bit on what your audiobook production process actually looks like?
Okay, so at this point in my career, I'm mostly, I would say 95% of my books are coming from publishers, which, was a goal. So my process is very different than it was 3-4 years ago when I first started. So as of now, I will get an audition from a pub. Sometimes I get an audition, sometimes I get handed ones. Those are the nice special treats. But more often I will get an audition or they want a sample of a book and I will send that out. If I get approved for the book, make sure that it fits into my calendar. And then the way I do the timing on a book, and it's so I don't use a spreadsheet. Some people are so detailed on how they schedule out their books. For me, it's I will schedule one working day for every hour of the book. So if the publisher says this is an 8-hour book, I will probably schedule 8 working days, because I don't count the weekends for that book. And my goal is always to finish one finished recorded hour in a work day. Now that doesn't always happen, but that gives me leeway, and I know that I can finish up to 2 finished hours in a day. That's a struggle, but I know I can do that. So that gives me a little wiggle room if one day something happens or I'm not feeling well one day or whatever. Seriously, I just take 7 days and I take the pages and I divide the pages by 7, and my daily goal is that amount of pages, and that's how I, schedule myself as far as recording. Until the day that it's due. So
Well,
it's
that's
nothing
actually really refreshing, because I know a lot of, especially beginning talent, they're like, oh, how the heck do I schedule this stuff? And they might overextend themselves and maybe do an 8-hour recording session on Monday, and then they can't do anything on Tuesday because they're exhausted. Right. So, and I love that you actually have a work-life balance and don't work on weekends. That's huge.
Took a while to get there, and I will do a weekend if I'm in a crunch. Like this weekend, I'll be working a couple hours over the weekend just because of things that happen in life, but I try not to. And on the weekends, I'm still prepping half the time, reading a book, prepping a book, or doing research for a book. So it's not 100% free, but I give myself
knows they never completely shut off, but,
right.
But at least you're not working as exhaustingly as during the week.
Everybody's different too, right? So I'm thinking of, you talked about the spreadsheet, so I'm thinking about Johnny Heller and how he hangs a schedule on his booth and maps out every part of his day, including editing and marketing and actual recording. But that's Johnny. If you know Johnny, if he didn't do that, he would just be playing with yarn all day like a cat.
Right.
And I say that lovingly, Johnny. But I actually have a process very similar to you, and I'm glad that you outlined that, because my goal is always 1 hour of finished recording too. And I'll watch the DAW and say, all right, Paul, you only have 12 more minutes. You can do it. And I'll persevere to try and get through that, because I know that's a good timeline for me.
I do too. Well, and I usually, after you've done the first day of pages for me, I automatically know how long it's going to take me to do that amount of pages, so I can go back from pages to time or whatever. And then if I'm actually doing a book where I have to do the post-production, which I still do those once in a while, I basically will double that schedule. So, an 8-day book will become a 16-day book, so that I give myself the same amount of time to do the editing and post-processing as I do the recording, just as a cushion. And that's for a book, if I was doing it through ACX, through an author, and I would give myself more time for that. So
yeah, it makes sense. So next question, Nikki, do you work under a pseudonym? Is it a large percentage of your work? And can you talk about why you chose that for anyone else that's considering doing a pseudonym for a particular book?
So I do work under a pseudonym, and
you don't have to divulge it, by the way. I'm not asking that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet or not, but I'm kind of at that phase where I'm does it matter? But I still kind of have it under wraps. But it's not a large percentage of my work. I only use it for spicy romance. And in the beginning of my career, I was not doing really any romance. And so I've just reached out in the last year and told the publishers that I'm interested, I'll do it. I have no problem doing it. I probably have 10 books under my pseudo. It's not a lot.
Okay.
But I'm getting more. Now I'm getting more and more and more and more. But I do it because I really only do it basically probably for my children. Like, I want my children to hear their mom reading that kind of stuff. And they're adults. My children are adult, but still, they actually know my name, my pseudonym. So it's not like if they really wanted to listen to it, but it was just in the beginning, I was like, I don't want them to hear any of that. My parents are too old. They don't listen to anything that I narrate, so I don't have to worry about that. And I really don't have a problem with like our community. Like, I'm not like trying to hide it from anybody in our audiobook community. So it was basically done for my children, maybe my grandchildren one day,
Yeah. I was the same way. And my oldest now is 20 or about to turn 20. So, like, for her, I wouldn't care at all. I think I did tell her, actually, last time she was home from college. And then I have two teenage boys that probably I should hold out a little bit longer. But once they're also in college, all bets are off. I don't care anymore.
Right. It gets to the point where it doesn't really matter. And then the more of those books that you do, you realize it's literally like a very small percentage of the book. So if someone really wanted to hear that, they would have to listen to the whole book to find those parts that, I think that I wouldn't want them to hear. And my kids aren't going to do that. So
yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, we're a big proponent of pseudonyms on the podcast, but we're just curious what everyone's individual reasons are, and because there's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed on your website, Nikki, is that you actually advertise some pretty impressive accent samples in your work. Have you always had a penchant for accents, and how exactly do you go about acquiring one for a specific character or project?
So I wouldn't say I have a lot of accents. I have a few that I feel like I'm strong in, and those are the ones I showcase. The German one is because I have a German mother. My mom was born and raised in Germany, and we spent our summers in Germany basically visiting her family. She's the only one that has come to the United States from her family. So I literally will just cast a family member in those, character roles, and it's very easy for me. The Spanish one is the other one. I don't think I even have a Spanish sample on there, but I did live in Spain for a couple years. So I also studied Spanish in Mexico. So again, these are things that I've studied and I have a lot of experience in. And then there's a British one. My best friend is British. So again, like I can cast her and her family in those roles. So for me, it's like I have to know somebody in order to be able to, I think, pull them off realistically. I've done training, like I've trained with PJ Oakland before for like my Boston accent, and the way he taught me, like I'll never forget it. I'll be able to do it no matter what. So his training, I totally believe, like go and do that. Get the training, learn the skills, and you'll never forget it. But there are also accents that I cannot do, like a Scottish accent, and I have tried, and I've had training, and I have practiced, but it just does not come out of my mouth correctly. So I guess I have to go live there or something in order to get that one.
But that's great that you mentioned. I remember taking a workshop with Everett Oliver, a character workshop, and he was just like, do you have any people in your life that would fit this character, a friend or a relative? And I struggled with that because in that particular example, I couldn't think of someone. So people, be a conversationalist. Pay attention to the people in your life because you never know when you might be able to cast them in something you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Nikki, you've won several awards, such as the Sobos in 2023. And one thing we notice is that you usually attend these galas or celebrations with a couple of our mutual friends, including Stephanie Nemeth Parker and Amanda Stribling, both who have been on the show recently. How have the awards affected your career, and how does that camaraderie help promote you and what I call the triumvirate of female audiobook narrators?
Well, it's definitely helped. I mean, you just add that to your resume, and then when you meet people, it's something you can casually bring up. And I think winning an award these days, anyway, I mean, even though I still don't feel like a real audiobook narrator, winning an award like that actually makes you feel like you belong, that you're worth it. Like, how we always are doubting ourselves all the time. Those are the things. Winning an award will give you that confidence. And then the confidence will also carry over, I think, when you're having conversations with publishers and stuff like that to help you.
You mean imposter syndrome doesn't go away?
Oh, no, never.
It's kind of a bittersweet realization, but anyways.
And then my friendships or my collaboration with Mandy and Stephanie, I mean, from the very beginning of Stephanie and I were doing the class with Sean together, and he put us together as accountability partners. So that relationship has started way at the beginning for both of us. And we have, and then we kind of threw Mandy in there right after. And just that has grown. I mean, the whole time we've all been narrators, and we're just such a big support system for each other. I mean, we are the ones that are like, you need to submit to these awards. We are there on top of each other, making sure that we do it. We go to the awards even if one of us is not nominated. We go to support each other and be there for each other and constantly looking out for each other. It's just it's a huge support. And not only those two people who are like, I would call them best friends of mine. I mean, there's just such a great community in the audiobook industry that I feel like everybody is like that for each other. I mean, I really don't feel any competition or, no one is mean or evil and like, ha, 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 you didn't win. Everybody's just supportive. And it's just such a nice community to be part of.
Yeah, it's all one big happy family. I always like to take credit, and I think he'll still admit this, to introducing Sean Pratt to Anna. Because we were at a conference together.
You did that?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow. You should get credit for that.
Even then. But
that's amazing.
That's too cool. I mean, I love everything that you're saying. The fact that it's so much more collaborative than competitive, and it can be really isolating, especially when you start. And it can be so refreshing to know that you have a partner and someone that you can bounce ideas off of. And it sounds like you have just grown and progressed together in an amazing way. That's awesome.
And we all are, it's so different. Like our paths have been so different. Our successes have been so different.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I was actually thinking when you were talking about how you got started that it sounded a lot like Mandy's story in being a self-starter, doing the research, learning on your own. So I think a lot of the innate skills are the same.
Yes, but I feel like we're all at different levels, meaning as like I'm at like 80 some books. I think Stephanie and we started at the same time is like over 300, like we all have different work ethics and we all have different things going on in our lives. Mandy still has kids at home, like in high school. Like I don't think I started this when my last one was like a junior in high school. And I don't know if I would have been able to put as much time in as she does, when they were home. I've definitely been on a slower path. And that's just because I have a lot of stuff going on in my life. It doesn't mean this is less important to me, but it's just interesting how we're all in different levels, different places in our career, but it doesn't matter. We're all just supportive of each other.
That's great. And we've said it many times before, there's no one set path to voiceover, to audiobooks in this case. And it's really refreshing to hear. It's like whether you have 1 hour a day to devote to it or 8 hours to devote to it, you can still make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So switching gears a little bit, pardon the pun, but what's your home studio setup like? I mean, we can see it on the Zoom call. It looks really nice. It sounds really good. But are there any pieces of gear or software that you're a big fan of or just make your life easier?
I mean, I've pretty much had the same setup from the very beginning. I've had to change my interface a few times. That's the one piece of equipment that seems to die like every year, and I have to replace it. But otherwise, I've had the same. I have a Rode NT1 microphone. And I don't have anything fancy. I just think I have good, solid equipment. I'm in a closet right now. I had a booth. I lived in Arizona last year, and I had a whisper room, and it was amazing, but it was huge. And we had an unsuspected move to Boston because of my husband's job. And so the booth had to go because we knew we weren't going to have the space for it. And so I'm in a closet, but I started out in a closet in the very beginning. So like I knew what I needed, and I knew it was basically just getting a sound engineer with me to figure out how to make it sound good and make sure that it was done well. And I did that as soon as I moved here. And as far as like my DAW, I use Studio One, been using that from the beginning, and that whole thing from Don Barnes, like went through his training and all of that. And that is amazing. And anytime I have a hiccup, I go back to his group on Facebook and it gets solved pretty much instantly. So that is a huge support. And then, having RX, I think I bought version 10, but I'm still only using version 9 because I'm afraid to switch over. But
I'm still on 8 actually.
It's an incremental upgrade. Don't worry.
Yeah. That is like an amazing tool as well. When I'm doing any kind of editing or post-production for my work, I use that 100%. As well as some people might not disagree with this, I do use positron positron, right? How do you guys say it?
Positron, yeah.
So just holding on a second, just to clarify for our listeners. So RX, or Isotope RX, is kind of an audio restoration suite of plugins. So it's very popular for its mouth declick, for getting rid of mouth noises. It can also help with some noise cancellation if you have some minor issues you're trying to get rid of, things like that. And then Positron is sort of a automated proofer that helps you catch errors and things like that, and can easily replace the incorrect audio with the corrected audio. So, but yeah, so we have no issues with that here. It's just a tool, right?
Right.
So.
It's a tool that I use if I'm doing the whole production on a book by myself, just to keep things moving along. So always use a human. I mean, I always will use a human proofer as well, whether it be my ears or somebody else on top of it. But I mean, all the extra, if I'm doing work for someone and they want a fully finished, beautiful product, I'll do whatever I can to make sure that it's, as perfect as it can be. So
Brilliant. My father-in-law is actually a writer. He's written several books, and he's just like, I can look at my writing so many times and still miss things. And so it's really important to either have that objective perspective, either third party or software, pointing out those mistakes, because you can get too close to it and not see the forest for the trees.
yeah, it's like if you get a pickup packet, when you get your mistakes back from the publisher and you listen to things that you said and you're like, I can't believe I read it that way. Like, how did that come out of my mouth? You just don't know because you're so used to hearing yourself.
Yeah. So transitioning nicely to our second to last question, the obligatory AI question we ask everybody these days. As a narrator and consumer of books, how do you feel about AI voices being used? Should narrators be concerned about being replaced? And are there types of books that AI might be useful for?
I mean, I'm not a fan of AI narration in audiobooks and many other places. I don't feel like does not tell the story the way a human does. I feel like most narrators feel that way. I definitely think we should be concerned about it. I'm concerned about it. I wonder how much longer I can do this job with AI getting better every day. I mean, are there types of books that AI uses might be worthwhile for? I mean, personally, I want to say no, but realistically, because, it's here, it's not going anywhere. Maybe in the form of like educational books that they have to produce it. I don't know, like, really dry, boring type of books. But still, I think a human voice would be better. I mean, that's my personal opinion. Although narrating, I've narrated all kinds of books, and there are some books that I was like, maybe this would be better if AI read it. Like heavily medically, with medical terms and stuff like that. Although I don't even know if AI could do the pronunciations correctly.
Well, yeah, that's the issue there.
So...
Yeah, it's
I don't know. Every day, it's something. I really think about it every day because it's involved in all parts of life these days.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, great question, and we totally agree. So thank you so much for being our guest today, Nikki. It was lovely having you. What piece of advice would you give to aspiring talent interested in pursuing audiobook work today?
Well,
sorry, we're full. That's the answer I usually give.
Yeah. My good, you won't like this. You won't like this. Go away. Yeah, like we don't need any more narrators. But I do have people reaching out all the time. I mean, I think that's just part of being a narrator. You always have someone who's like, it's such a cool job. How do I do it? I always go back to Sean Allen Pratt again, to his, I mean, I have the link somewhere on my phone where I can literally just send it to someone right away, to his YouTube video of go sit in a closet, take a book and go sit in a closet and read a book for 4 hours or whatever he says. And, if you come out of that closet in 4 hours and you feel great about what you've done and you love it, then go to the next step, which in my opinion is like get some training, get some coaching. I know many people who started, and then after the first or second book through ACX, there's just like this process is just too much and couldn't do it anymore. So I also always recommend Learning Ally. That's a company that you can volunteer for to read books. And I did do that in the beginning. Actually, I still do it once in a while now. If I have a gap in my schedule, I'll reach out to them and be like, I would love, done a lot of books for them. Most of them are like for the elementary grade level. So it brings me back to like, my teaching days, and I have a lot of fun with it. But, you don't get paid for that, but you cannot like the experience you get from that, doing a whole book, and usually it has to be voices and characters, and that experience is priceless. So that's another thing I always recommend.
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
almost like an internship. And it's also a very low stakes thing where like they're very accommodating. They'll help educate you on how to do this. I think they even allow people to intern as editors and proofers as well, so they can learn that aspect of the production. So highly recommend that source. And it's a great way to give back to the community.
Yep.
And they get great titles, too, because they're nonprofit. So I did a Curious George book for them, which I don't think I ever would have gotten from a publisher, but I did it for Learning Alley, and it was a lot of fun.
Same here. I did some amazing books that I would love to do in real life. So like, for me it was like a extra bonus.
And that copyright.
Hey. And you can still promote it too on your social media and say, I did this book for like.
No, a friend of mine got to do like Spider-Man books through them. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And really, really nice people to work with and for. Like, I mean, I've never met such nice people before, and grateful.
Agreed. Well, Nikki, as Sean said, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Before you go, how can folks hire you if they want to work with you? And are there any new projects you'd like to promote while you're here?
Well, you can go to my website, which is simply nikkizakocs.com. All my information and contact information is on there.
We should probably spell that, too, just because there's a lot of variations.
True. So Nikki is Nikki. Zakocs is ZAKOCS.com. And new projects. I'm working on a book right now on emotional intelligence, which is very interesting in this day and age. Emotional intelligence for leaders. So, again, that's why I love nonfiction. I love to read and learn and apply it to my life if it's something I'm interested in. So, yeah. Anything true crime, anybody have anything true crime, send my way. Love it, love it. We'll read it, we'll narrate it, anything.
There you go. Well, Nikki, thanks so much again for being here, and look forward to seeing you in person again sometime soon.
I know. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
How many times has this happened to you? You're listening to the radio when this commercial comes on, not unlike this one, and this guy starts talking, not unlike myself.
Or maybe it's a woman that starts talking, not unlike myself, and you think to yourself, geez, I could do that.
Well, mister, well, missy, you just got one step closer to realizing your dream as a voiceover artist, because now there's Global Voice Acting Academy. All the tools and straight-from-the-hip, honest information you need to get on a fast track to doing this commercial yourself.
Well, not this one exactly.
Classes, private coaching, webinars, home studio setup, marketing and branding help, members-only benefits like workouts, rate and negotiation advice, practice scripts, and more. All without the kind of hype you're listening to right now. Go ahead, take our jobs from us. We dare you.
Speak for yourself, buddy. I like what I do.
And you will too when you're learning your craft at Global Voice Acting Academy. Find us at globalvoiceacademy.com.
Because you like to have fun.
All right, and we're back. Thanks to Nikki for being on the show. She is the last of the three Amiga / VO narrator triumvirate with Stephanie Devitt Parker and Amanda Striblings. And I'm so glad we got to have all three of them on the show. And also, the 6 Degrees of Separation is hilarious with that one. I tried to talk about it in the beginning, but it's kind of ridiculous. It's not just that one of my neighbors up the street, I think, is one of her cousins, but also one of my kids' former soccer coaches is a cousin who lives up the street. And there's just so many people with that name around here. I knew they had to be related. And then one time on Facebook, I saw Nikki commenting, and I was like, oh my gosh, how do you know this person? And I found out they were all related, and they're all in my neighborhood. So once again, it never fails to amaze me.
And then even I had a connection. Like her children are out on the West Coast. So I'm like, oh yeah, I could visit them if I need to.
And I love Nikki's story. It's the same, or I shouldn't say it's the same, but it comes up so often where the ideas of being a self-starter, being able to find information on your own, and being able to have the determination to keep going when things look bleak. It's a common story that all the successful people we talk to seem to have in common.
Over and over and over again. It's just like you have to be comfortable not knowing what you don't know, and you need to strive to correct that. And unfortunately, I see that less and less now. I mean, we talked about it in some of the recent interviews, but it's like so many people are looking for permission to start, and they're looking for they don't trust their own ability to find information out for themselves. Like, I mean, people know me, like people jokingly call me that. Let me Google that for you, guy. But it's I want to help people, but even I am like, I don't want to teach these people dependence, right, on others. Like you need to be a self-starter. Like you need to be comfortable with failure. You need to be comfortable with ignorance, and you just have to be tenacious enough to keep learning, to keep improving until you start getting the results you want.
And also trust that what you know is enough. So one thing about Nikki also that she talked about is she moved across the country, like from coast to coast recently, from California to Boston, and didn't skip a beat because she knew how to reset up her booth or create a new space and record there. And I've done that dozens of times at this point, all in the same geographic area. But I've blown up my booth and recording space half a dozen times already. I've been through like 7 different booth permutations, and every time I was confident I would get back to where I was to a high quality sound.
Brilliant. Yeah, not skipping a beat. So that wraps up this episode of the VO Meter.
Measuring your voiceover progress. Next up, we'll be interviewing and talking with Christy Robbins-Bowen, who's a voice actor and the owner of the Tennessee Voiceover Studios, of which I was an instructor a few months ago, and a great group of people down there. Actually, Amanda Stribling was just there visiting for a networking session I saw on one of the social media channels, and look forward to talking to Christy in a few weeks.
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody. You'll hear us in the next one. Thanks for listening to this episode of the VO Meter. To follow along, visit us at www.vometer.com.
We'd also love to hear your comments or suggestions for the show. Or if you have a questionable gear purchase, tell us all about it on our Facebook page or on Twitter at the VO Meter.